Let's get the pog champs in chat, yeah? Whoa. That spam monkey giga. No? Same mic as always. Fucking Frost Mage. Destroying my FPS. No, I just get to speak a lot more clearly now because I'm home alone currently, so I don't have to try and keep my stuff down. Alright. Let me... Literally goes offline. Come on, Frank, get your ass online, boy. Do I need to do an at everyone ping? Well, in the meantime, let's stop this professionalism. Fuck professionalism. Today we are doing coffee. Indiscipline priest. Me. There we go. Honka Pog. Okay, thanks. Alright. So I know Lifford's going to be watching the VOD of this. And I hope maybe Nub will be if he's not around right now. So basically I'm just going to kind of go... Oh, there he is. Hey, Nub. Oh, champ. check out the chat, Lifford. Like, great things. So the way I kind of want to do this is I want to go over the spells, I want to go over the talents, I want to go over what I know about them, I want to go over your Azeroth traits, and basically then kind of do a bit of a, not like a theory crafting kind of situation, but like kind of just go over little intricacies I know of like the class, and then looking at like raids and such. Mainly raids. A bit smart. And also share a little bit more research I did. In kind of touch on... Relinquish all control. Thank you. Fucking not following me before Frank, what is this heresy? Thank you for following, buddy. And then as for questions, feel free to ask stuff like throughout. Like just throw questions at me in chat while we're going, and we'll attempt to answer what I can. Basically about it. So before we start, has anyone got any like preliminary questions they want to get out of the way now? Anything they want to, like, just really want to ask? Or, like, anything they might want me to cover, maybe, while I'm going through stuff that they think I might not. I also have some more information on direct healing with penance, because I don't know if the numbers got changed, but I think they did. Not in my patch notes, though. I'm going to assume a... God. There's always one. Would you rather sleep with a gnome female or a troll female? I mean, you kind of have to go with troll, because gnome, they look like children. So, no. Troll, thank you, troll. Oh my god, he is lagging. So, this is Discipline Priest, which is your boy. For those of you who don't know what Discipline Priest is, it's basically a healing spec from Priest class that heals through something called Atonement by dealing damage. Basically the class. Pretty simple. So, is will help when you're I don't know. My lovely spellbook. So we're just gonna kind of go through some of the basic abilities, some of your CDs, and then we're just gonna kind of jump onto talents from there. So for basic abilities, this human is evil. Thank you very much, Ari, for the fivers.
PogChamp in the chat for the disc guide.
PogChamp's in chat. Yes, let's go. That's my food for today. Thank you. Alright, so for your basic kind of abilities, you have Smite. Very small mana cost, cast time. It deals damage. It deals damage, and it also absorbs roughly that amount of damage that's dealt by the enemy. So if I pick this boy, and then you'll see he now has this above his nameplate. It basically just puts a 15-second kind of dot on them that whenever they next deal damage, hey Crocat, whenever they next deal damage, the basically 4,500 of it will be absorbed through Smite. When you're Smite spamming, because Smite is your filler spell, you'll just be applying that. So it's like it doesn't count for much, but I mean, if we look at our Zul kill from last night, Smite technically did like 6% of my healing. So if you're, if you're pushing it throughout the fight, you're gonna get some value. It's not a lot, but it's still some. I mean, 6% of your healing from literally just using your filler, pretty half decent. So in any kind of downtime, that's really what you want to be using. Your second kind of basic spell is your Shadow of Pain. Just a hot. Click the thing, put the hot, does the thing. It's 16 seconds and it's capped at 24 seconds. So you only ever want to refresh it when it's 8 seconds or under, otherwise you will lose value. Man, here is a Storm instead of Smite. Yes, Smite's a dead game. The Shadow with Pain, yep, you only want to refresh it when it's under 8 seconds, otherwise you will lose seconds from it, you'll lose value from it. It's something that you want to try and get 100% uptime on, because the ticking damage does heal through your Atonement, which is really nice. Just throughout a fight, having that little bit of extra push. We'll get onto like the Atonement specifics in a bit. So I know something that I need to work on, 100% Shadow Word uptime. I have about 35 right now, so that's something that you want to kind of get down pretty early on. And then your other basic ability, where is it? It's your Penance. So it's 2,000 mana, channel for 1.7 seconds. You can either target a enemy or a friendly. Target an enemy. It will deal for me it deals 9.2k over the duration using 3 bolts. It's important to note that it's 3 bolts that are fired and the damage is split along each bolt. Or if you target a friendly, it will, for me, deal 20,500 healing. So I did a little bit of calculations. Yeah, no, we'll get onto calculations later. That's the fun bit. But basically, you have the option of doing either. The damage will obviously heal targets with your atonement. And that's basically your core rotation. Pretty much it. Moving on to your CDs. You have, let's work down. So you got Desperate Prayer, which is your personal. Increases your maximum health by 25% for 10 seconds, and it instantly heals you for that amount. What this means is that you can use this at any health percentage, regardless of how full on health you are. You will always get 25% of your maximum health, and you will always heal for that much. And it's on a 1.5 second CD. It is off the GCD, and it's instant cast. There's no excuse whatever to be using this, even though I don't, but I'm going to work on that. This is basically your kind of bread and butter of like keeping yourself alive when you're trying to like heal others. It's just nice to use. Try and find places to use it specifically. Maybe like every Surging Darkness, for example, on Sekvos. Really good place to be using it. Next up, you have your Dispel Magic. Literally the only time you will ever use this is in PvP, dungeons, dispelling trash, or dispelling the Zor minion. Basically, yep. Fade. You want to be using this whenever you get aggro on something. So just press it. It's a 30-second cooldown. Gets rid of the threat. As soon as anyone else hits the thing, they take threat from you. So, this is the I don't even know why I have it on my hotbar, but like, this is a dead spell. Don't fucking use it. There's maybe like some math where like at a certain amount of enemies, this deals more damage than anything else, but you're looking at like maybe 8+ enemies. So like, nah. It is important to note. Best spell for legacy raids, yes. Holy Nova is pretty pog for legacy raids, actually. It is important to note when using this spell, or any kind of AoE spell, the damage it deals, if it hits 8 targets, only the first target hit will proc Atonement. None of the other damage procs will proc Atonement. So you are basically getting Atonement off 1,854 damage for me, which is like shit. Your smite does more. Why waste a GCD on a Holy Nova when you can not only deal more damage using smite, but you will heal more using smite, not only through your atonement, but also through the absorb. The absorb alone heals more than Holy Nova does. So, yeah. Never use this ability in BFA. I don't even know why I have it on my hotbar. It's just there. Leap of Faith. If you know priests, you know Leap of Faith. Is that not without int? What do you mean? What do you mean, Howie? Is that not without int? But yeah, you don't want to be using this. Even in dungeons, you don't want to be using this. It's a dead spell. But yeah, Leap of Faith. You know priest, you know Leap of Faith. You pull them. Example. Okay, I'll let you type your thing. Levitate is, well, levitate. Not really important. Now, if it's a Fury, does 17k per tick, but I do 19 to 20k on a baseline. Yeah, so in terms of damage output, like I said, there's maybe like a 6 or like 8 enemy point where Holy Nova will deal more damage than any other ability, but you're still only proccing Atonement off one of those enemies that gets hit. So the actual healing for it, that's probably armor reducing it. Yeah, there's probably possibly, yeah. But so like in terms of dealing damage, if you don't have any healing to do and there's just like a bunch of small enemies, like in like Shrine of the Storm, when you've got the little globules outside the first boss, that's maybe like a point where you can just spam it a bit just to help kill them off. But like if you're looking to actually do healing, you don't want to be using this. You have Shadow Fiend. Mine's called Lightspawn because of a glyph, but it's Shadow Fiend. 3-minute cooldown. Summons a shadowy fiend to attack the target for 15 seconds. Now, how much damage did mine deal on Zul? Let's find out if I actually do the damage. So, mine dealt basically as much as my Divine Star. It dealt 9.7% of my max damage during the Zul kill last night. So, Shadow Fiend is a CD. It is not just like any other kind of DPS stuff. It's not like Holy Word Chastis or any crap. You're not using it just for damage unless there's literally nowhere else you can kind of use it. So like on Zekphos kills, I use it on pull because then I have it up for the 3-minute ads when it overlaps with Surge and Darkness. This is really nice because the damage from your lights from your Shadow Fiend does proc Atonement. So you can use it as a raid CD, get Atonement up on everyone, and because the Lightspawn is just attacking the target, you know, whether it's boss or whatever you choose to hit with it, you can just sit there keeping up your Atonements, and the damage from like your Shadow Fiend will keep proccing Atonement. You can work on upkeeping the Atonements you have on targets, or you can use it as a supplement to your AoE burst on like a full raid ramp up. So like on Mother, I throw Shadow Fiend just before we start going through the gate because that supplements the healing I do with my burst rotation. So this is basically, you want to consider it as a CD. Next up we have Master Spell. You all know Master Spell. With Dispelling with that and Purify in general, you want to learn what you can and you can't dispel, and you want to try and set up your raid frames to do that. I know you have them, I know I do. I think Lifit has, I don't know about you, Frank. Penance average damage was 12k, Shadow of Pain, Smite, and Shadow Fiend was 50k. Yeah, you want to be using it as like Atonement because it's that much damage. Is there a way to reduce the Shadow Fiend CD? Yes, with a talent, but I'll get onto talents in a bit. We won't worry about that too much just yet. Master Res is Master Res. But yeah, with your Master Spell and your Purify, you want to be making sure you can see what you can dispel. It is Magic and Disease. Yes, Magic and Disease with Purify, but it's just Magic with Master Spell. The Master Spell works on enemies. So you can Master Spell like the shields off, like the bone shields off the skeletons in Underrot, for example. Or in Child of the Storm. So you want to be learning stuff like that, and obviously Dispel Magic's a single target version of Master Spell, and it has no CD. This is where you want to be learning how to use that part of your kit, like how you can dispel poisons with her Holy Pally. You want to know with Cleanse, I think it's called. So you want to be learning that as well. Mind Control and Mega Lol, Mind Vision and Mega Lol, Pain Suppression. Actually, if not the most powerful external from healers. Reduces all damage taken by a friendly target by 40% for 8 seconds. And you can cast it while you're stunned. 3-minute cooldown. Lost bit of mana, 40-yard range, instant. Yeah. You wanna... It's insane. Yeah, it's literally insane. You want to try and use it preferably before damage comes in, because then the person requires less healing. You're then saving yourself another healer's mana. But I find sometimes it's also okay still to put it on a target like a tank who's just taken a huge smack and is maybe in danger of dying from something else. Attack and Cocoon are definitely up there, but they don't really... yeah, their CDs are nice, but they don't hold much of a candle to the pure, like, just pain suppression. Yeah, it's okay to kind of use this after, like, someone like a tank's taking damage if they're still in danger of being killed, because you're reducing the damage they're taking, therefore giving your healers like a bit more time to heal them up. which obviously is beneficial in making sure you're keeping people alive. Cocoon's 2-minute CD. Yeah, Cocoon. Great. Does its job. Barrier. Now, this is disgusting. This is what makes... This is basically rude. This is what makes discipline interesting. So, 4k mana, 40-yard range, 3-minute cooldown, instant, same as most other stuff. Puts a barrier down. Keen best visuals of externals, yes. It puts a barrier down over here. This is an 8-yard range, if I remember correctly. A bit bigger than an 8-yard range. Barrier. It will tell me in Wowhead. It is an 8-yard range. Yeah. Correct. It places a barrier down. It's an 8-yard range barrier. And basically anyone standing within it for the 10 seconds it's up has all of their damage taken reduced by 25%, and damage no longer delays their spell casting. Basically, if you're in a raid and you have a discipline priest and they say they're going to use their barrier, you fucking stand in it. If you don't stand in it, you're a dick. 101 of this priest in raiding, right? This is something that you want to be using when people can stack up. You want to be using it when you want to be doing big burst AoE healing, so i.e. Vectus, i.e. stacking on Zegfos, stacking on Zul. If you're stacking on Mithrax during the intermission phase, Gahoon stacking on Beam, Hallock stacking for Cudgel, Mother stacking at Gate. Basically, like, there are tons of ways you can use this. You just need to figure it out, and you need to talk to whoever your raid lead is, and you need to sit down and go, okay, I want to use barrier here. Can we set it up so that we get people to stack at this point? It's huge damage reduction on anyone and everyone who stands underneath it, and then it makes the healing so much, because you're not using as much mana, not spamming as much, because there's as much, because you're literally cutting off a quarter of the damage. 10 seconds. So yeah, use this. I need to use it, but use it. I see. I'll get onto other guides as well. Powered Fortitude is your raid buff. Keep it up. I have a weak aura that tells me. Powered Radiance. We're getting into Atonement applica. Actually, we'll go over these in a bit. Psychic Scream, 1 minute cooldown, causes 5 enemies within 8 yards to flee. It's basically an interrupt if you can fear them. Use it where you can, but damage may interrupt. It basically does. You got your Purify, your single target spell on friendlies, Rapture. Now, something that was added into 8.1, this, Weaken Soul. So don't use it in M+. Yes, don't use Psychic Scream in M+, unless you absolutely have to. Last resort spell. So Weaken Soul applies a debuff to someone that you shield for 7.5 seconds. By the time your GCD has ended from using Powered Shield, 6 seconds. So basically, you cannot shield that person again for 4 casts, effectively. What does this mean for Discipline Priests having this in? It means literally fuck all. Now you can't spam shield. We'll get to that. Spamming your normal shield, while yes, it's a 10k, at least for me, it's a 10.5k absorb, which is quite nice. You don't want to be spamming a normal shield on the same person. Reason being, your healing is going to do more. in general. There are very fringe cases you can do it, but you're probably going to want to just be shadow mending them instead. Because, I mean, my shadow mend does like nearly 17.5k. You're better off spamming shadow mend on the target because you're going to get more healing, more value than you are powered shield. Not that you can now anyway. However, Rapture only really affects PvP where you get kicked out of shadow mend. Yes. Yes, that is true. Rapture, it's a 1.5 minute cooldown, so 1 minute 30 seconds. For the next 10 seconds, your powered shield absorbs an additional 200%, meaning my shields would do 31.5k absorb. And maybe cast on targets where we can solve. If I cast shield on myself, I can't. It's telling me invalid target. If I press Rapture, I can then shield myself, shield myself, shield myself, and then shield myself, so forth. One thing it's worth knowing, you do not want to Rapture the same target twice. In most cases, unless it is a tank or someone with like some huge ass dot, like Omega Vectors on Vectis, for example, where by the time you've cast the shield, they've lost the shield, so then you can cast it again. But you want to try and avoid stacking a shield with Rapture, because it's just waste otherwise. You could put it on someone else who could potentially use that absorb. And it's also worth noting that Rapture shields and normal shields can crit, meaning the crit value they get is added absorb. So like if my Rapture absorbs 31.5k, I could crit and get however much it is, on like 50k or some shit. So if you get a crit Rapture shield, hugely important you do not Rapture them again. Hugely important. This is something that recent change to evangelism. You can basically use every single time you ramp up, and when you're going through, you know, if you're casting shields on people to ramp up with, you can use this and just get extra value out of the shields. Rapture is on the GCD. It's the most fucking annoying thing. But Rapture is on the GCD, so you need to bear that in mind. So if you're going to be doing a ramp up, you need to be casting it 1.5 seconds before your ramp up would start. Otherwise, you're just going to be late. 1 GCD late. Resurrection single target. Shackled and dead. If you can find use, tell me, because I don't bother with this. The point. We've gone over Shadow with Pain. Shadow Mend. Shadow Mend is a way of applying atonement. It heals ally. King's Rest, Shackle. Well, I don't do King's Rest, so M+. Yeah. Like, I mean, I suppose I've just been in too many runs with like Hunters with Freezing Traps, DHs with Imprison. Monks with Asphyxiation. Suppose, yeah, I should start using it more. You can use it. Awesome. I might just replace Holy Nova with Shackle and Dead. But yeah. So with Shadow Mend, as a cast time, costs 3,000 mana. It will heal an ally for a set amount. Mine's nearly 17.5k. However, they will take. So if you heal for like 100%, 50% is the damage they will take, and they will take 10% of that 50%, so 5%, every second. They'll take 5% of your max heal once every second until they have taken 50% of the heal as damage. However, as I talked about last night, it is not just from Shadow Mend, it's from all sources. So if I was like dueling this guy, right? and I shadow mended myself, and it gave me, okay, look, oh, I'm taking ticking damage. He would literally probably cast like one ability and deal that 8.5k to me. And there we go, the shadow mend dot is gone. I've taken the damage. I'm no longer taking the 869 damage every second. So for raiding, and in general, really, with everything, PvP, raiding, that damage is literally negligible. Like, don't worry about it. It doesn't exist. Literally, particularly in raids, like if you're shadow mending a tank, for instance, they're going to just be taking that damage from getting smacked by the boss. It's just going to be happening. It's going to be happening naturally. So you should never feel to hold back a shadow mend because of its damage. Like, most of the time I forget it even exists. I just think, oh, it's a healer, I apply atonement, let's do it. So that's kind of the weird thing with shadow mend. That, yeah, the damage is from all the forces from shadow. Moving on from there, you have your passives. So Focused Will now has 1 stack. It doesn't stack to 2 for disc anymore, but if you get melee attacked somehow, it will reduce the damage you take by 15% for 8 seconds. I believe this does refresh if you get meleeed again. It did stack twice, giving you 30% reduction before today's patch. No longer does. It was apparently quite a cancel thing in PvP. But now it is no longer that cancels. Next little bit is, yep, priest tanks. Yep. Power of the dark side, your Shadow of Pain, which is why it's important to try and upkeep it, has a chance to empower your next penance. Shadow increasing its effectiveness by 50%. Important keyword, effectiveness. That means, as far as I know, it affects both your heal and your damage. So you will do 50% more healing, i.e. I will do a 30k single target heal, or 50% more damage, i.e. I will do about 14k damage. The ways of using this we'll get into later, but it's just worth knowing that if you get the proc, your penance is going to do that a little bit more. And then you can kind of judge on how you want to use that penance from there. Your Atonement and Mastery Grace. So Atonement, your Power of Shield, your Shadow Man, and your Power of Radiance, which we'll go over those 3 again in a sec. Apply Atonement to your target for 15 seconds. Your spell damage, keyword spell damage, heals all targets affected by Atonement for 55% of the damage done. It is worth noting, DPS trinkets do not proc Atonement. Azeroth traits do not proc Atonement. It's very important noticing items like bombs, or like basically bombs, yeah. They do not proc Atonement. It is only your stuff in the spellbook and in your talents that procs Atonement. Nothing else. So, you know, for instance, I have Lady Greycrest's music box. Your healing spells have a chance to cause the Harmless Chord, healing 4k health to an nearby injured ally, that procs. Damaging spells, that procs. Right? 3,500 damage. I do the damage, but it doesn't proc Atonement. Do not proc Atonement. It was a change from Legion, where Trinket's damage was nerfed for Discipline specifically, but then it did proc Atonement. Now the damage you get from Trinkets is the same as everyone else when you're playing Discipline, but it doesn't proc Atonement. So you just need to make sure that you remember that when you're looking at gear. If you get a DPS trinket, yes, this deals tons of damage. Oh yeah, this is amazing. It's literally useless. Don't use it. Unless like You then also have your mastery, which is your grace, so your healing and absorption is increased by 21.4% on top. That's obviously because mastery is 21% currently. It is very... You need to know that when you apply atonement with an ability, i.e. the heal from Shadow Mend, the absorption from Powered Shield, or the healing from Powered Radiance, they do not proc your mastery. However, if you use them on someone who has atonement, it will proc the mastery. Also, if I put atonement on myself and I smack this guy, right? Because I have atonement on myself and I'm hitting something, I'm healing the person with atonement. Therefore, that also procs mastery. So any damage dealing you do to heal people with atonement will proc your mastery, because you're technically healing the person with atonement on them. So mastery is good, but not that good. The main stats obviously for disc are crit haste, but most of the time you can do better just by improving your play with disc than about secondary stats that aren't about them too. You can see like mine's like fairly balanced at the moment. So going into powered shield. Basically, instant casts cost 2.65% of your maximum mana. Amen costs 3% of your maximum mana. Powered Radiance costs 6.5% of your maximum mana. All three apply atonement. Powered Shield is a single target absorb. It's instant cast. Shadow Mend is a healing cast time plus atonement. Powered Radiance, you have 2 charges of this. Has a cast time. It will hit your target and 4 other targets within 30 yards. Heals them for like reasonable-ish amount, although you never use Radiance for its heal. And it applies atonement. 2 charges, 20 seconds per charge on recharge. So 40 seconds to get both back. It's worth noting, so I have a trait that changes this, but it applies the duration of the atonement is 60% base. So it will apply atonement for 9 seconds instead of 15 seconds with Powered Radiance, whereas if you have the trait Enduring Luminescence, it will be 70%, which is why the trait's bis and you need it. So it will be 10.5 seconds atonement instead of 9. Basically gives you an extra GCD when you apply atonement using Radiance. Basically about it with that spell. It's worth noting, casting 2 powered shields or casting 2 powered shields or 2 shadow mends is more efficient than using Powered Radiance. As soon as you are applying atonement with a 3rd powered shield or a 3rd shadow mend, Powered Radiance becomes more efficient at applying out a small amount of atonement. So it's worth remembering that when you're looking at like your rotation during a boss fight. I wonder if that's about it for spells. Yeah, that's pretty much it for your spells. Next we have your talents. This is where fun begins. So I'm gonna pause it for a sec, so I've been going like 40 minutes near enough. Are there any questions so far about any of the stuff I've just spoken about? And preferably not whether or not I bang a gnome or a troll. Just any kind of intermediary questions before we jump onto the talents. Because oh boy, there is a lot more still to talk about. I don't know what delay I have. I do not know. Why not use Halo in raids? I'll explain talents next. Nothing kind of about spells. I'll answer that question when I get to this tier. So these are your talents. Some of this has changed a bit, I believe, because of the recent patch. We'll go through it bit by bit. So Mr. Fate is bad. As much as people don't like that idea, that Twist of Fate, we'll get onto Luminous Barrier. We'll get onto that spell. Onto that talent. So Twist of Fate is bad. It's worse than the other two. It's potentially pickable maybe in some situations, but generally you don't want to be picking it. Unfortunately, is it not better for single target healing? Castigation's better for single target healing than Twist of Fate. Spot healing, again, Castigation's better than Twist of Fate, because you use Castigation Contrition. It's just the unfortunate of it, of the way that, you know, the big brains doing the guides and stuff have worked it out. You don't want to be using Twist of Fate as a Discipline Priest. Schism is basically the burst talent on the row. It deals damage that has just been nerfed, but it also increases the damage you deal to the target by 40% for 9 seconds. So it increases the damage of all your follow-up abilities in your burst rotation. So Schism is generally what you want to be going. However, in PvP, Castigation's better, just because you tend to defensively penance a hell of a lot more in PvP. But you don't so much in raids. So like the way I've worked it out is, if you're healing 3 targets, defensively penancing gains more HPS, whereas if you're healing 4 or more targets, hitting the opponent with penance gains more HPS. But that really matters mainly for raids, not as much for things like M+, because you tend to just blanket the M+ group anyway. And then PvP is just PvP, you tend to spot heal the target who's being focused. So that's where you get more use out of Castigation. So that's basically that talent row. You pretty much always want to be picking Schism in raiding. Always pick Schism. Next talent tier, Angelic Feather is the only choice on this talent tier. The only thing I could find use for this for is if we were still in Legion playing Varamathras. I ran through my head a bit last night. Every single fight has some form of movement that Feather could be benefited by. You can benefit by using Feather, sorry. So, Body and Soul you never want to pick, particularly in raids. Maybe solo content you can pick Body and Soul, but like, when you're applying shields to people to put out your atonement, you're going to be giving them random 40% for 3 seconds on movement speed. That's going to screw up their movement. They're not going to expect it, and you're not exactly going to sit there like calling out every target you're shielding to warn them. That's why you don't take Body and Soul. And again, I cannot pronounce that word. This talent, when you cast Shadowman on yourself, its damage over time effect heals you instead, reduces all damage you take by 10 seconds. If you are taking that much damage, my first question is, why are you tanking? Second question is, how? And there are other classes that spot heal better, particularly in raids. You might find use for this in PvP, potentially. M+, because of your general lack of movement as a priest, you kind of want Feather to be able to keep up with the group. But then again, you might actually find some use for this maybe in some M+, if you work with your group on it. But generally, 9 times out of 10, you want to just be picking Feather. Feather's really nice. Planet, wherever you want, highest range, as you can see, and it gives them 40% increased movement speed for 5 seconds on a 3 charge, 20-second recharge. Now this tier, if you have a mobile group like a monk tank, it's good for those wheelchairs. Yeah. Like, you can use feather on like other people, so I could give like this guard here a feather. He's now a quick boy. So this talent here, to my knowledge, and it still holds true now, this is the most mana gain in a raid. Don't pick this. Just don't pick this. This is the most mana gain. It's the most consistent. At least again from like the research I did and kind of what I know of it. So in Rage, you want to be taking Solace. There's only one point you want to be taking Mindbender that I have found so far in our Mythic progression is on Fetid, just because you can have this up for each of the ad phases and use it on pull, because it's a 1 minute, it makes your Shadow Fiend a 1 minute cooldown. It lasts 3 seconds less, but it's 1 minute cooldown. But in general sense, you want to take Solace because it's going to be part of your burst rotation. It deals a nice chunk of damage. It's got a short cooldown. Me, it's 10 seconds. And you just want to keep that on cooldown, keep using it, get your mana back, because it's 1% of your maximum mana every time you use it. Both of these, including Shadow Fiend, have this patch today just received an 8% damage nerf. The Solace's damage isn't like as big as it was, but it's still like a reasonable amount. You still want to be picking it in raids. But does it give you more mana back? With Witch, sorry. But does Witch give you more mana back? Because you gotta remember, this is like 12 seconds, 0.5%, whereas that's 1% every 10 seconds. So you'll get 6% off this in a minute, and this, the Mindbender, no. I'm trying to think, if it's a general 1.5 second attack, which is the normal kind of cooldown for most attacks, that is 8, right? 8 times 1.5, yeah. So then 8 times 0.5 is 4% mana in a minute. That's giving you 6, and that's giving you 4 once every minute. Your maximum mana back. That's the quick maths, boys. So yeah, it just gives you more mana back over a period of a fight. And that's also bearing in mind, you might not always use Mindbender on cooldown because it does replace Shadow Fiend, so it is still technically a damage CD for the raid. Which again is why I use it on Fed, because I can just throw it onto the egg, deal some damage, have some Total Blanket. So it kind of has its use there, but like otherwise, yeah, just take Solace. This next is purely personal preference. However, I will always recommend Shining Force. Its utility is really nice in some situations, like the Cithalids ads on Zekphos, for example. Unfortunately, like there's not really anything or much at all that can get feared in raid. So Psychic's Voice and Psychic's Scream generally are just useless. And then, as we said a bit earlier on, like how we were saying about Solace also saves mana as it fills the GCD that would always be a smite. Spot on. That's actually a really good shout, Nub. Yes. Solace will also save mana as it fills the GCD that would otherwise be a smite. Although technically your Mindbender and Shadow Fiend are on the GCD. Technically. I'm not too sure about that actually. Actually, no, yeah, it would, because you'd only cast that once a minute, and you'd get technically like 5 more casts out of Solace than you would of Mindbender, so you're technically filling 5 more GCDs with a Solace instead of a Mindbender. Instead of a Smite, sorry. So, yes, actually, yeah, you're right, you're right. Dominant Mind. You might find use of this in M+. Maybe. I haven't tried it. I haven't really kind of given it a go. Obviously, because this means it can't be used against players, you don't want to be taking this in PvP. PvP, again, Shining Force, as we have seen on that map, knocking people off is so much fun. It also knocks people away from you. So generally, yeah, it's kind of either Psychic Voice or Shining Force. I prefer Shining Force personally, but again, might be situations where you can fear stuff with Psychic Scream and you want to have your Psychic Voice for that. It's kind of, it's a bit tit for tat, really. You know, kind of just depends on what you prefer. Now we get to this. This talent here, Jesus Christ. Alright. I will say this now. Sins of the Many is the best talent on this tier. Now, those of you who have given this go might go, but Birdo, what about Shadow Covenant? We'll get to that. Sins of the Many, your damage is increased by up to 12%, diminishing for each ally affected by your opponent. It is worth noting there is scaling on Focused Will that they've written out for how this scales, but it is worth noting I have 12% currently. I put Atonement on myself, I still have 12%. Your first Atonement and having one Atonement out on just like a tank does not affect the amount of damage. However, if I put Atonement on myself and I put Atonement on this guy, it then goes down to 10%. So I would recommend looking up on Focused Will just to get an idea in your head of how the scaling works on Sins of the Many. But it's not that important that you know it because you're going to be putting Atonements out anyway just to heal. But maybe it's a bit more of like an M+ thing where you want to be pushing damage, especially as a healer. So having knowledge of it there and just knowing how many Atonements you should be putting out to maybe gain that extra like 1% damage increase might be important, maybe. But for raiding, generally just Sins of the Many and just do your stuff, do your shit. Okay? Contrition you only want to take when you have Castigation. Castigation you only want to take when you have Contrition. Consider those two talents like as one talent. What is the damage reduction percent on Sins of the Many? Oh, what do you want me to actually say what the scaling is? Would you want me to actually run through the numbers, or is that what you mean? The diminishing return. Okay, yeah, okay, I can run that through. Yeah. Focused Will. Where are you, my boy? Here we go. So, I'm just gonna rattle off the numbers here. What is the value between 10 targets compared to 5 to 6 targets? Okay, so for one target, for zero atonements, it's 12%. For one target, 12%. 2, 10%. 3, 8%. 4, 7%. 5, 6%. 6 is 5%. 7 is 5%. 8 is 4%. 9 is 4%. And 10 plus is 3%. So between having 10 targets and 5 or 6 targets, you're only losing 2%. You lose a lot of the damage value in the first kind of 5 atonements, basically. So you go from 0 to 1, you don't lose anything. 1 to 2 is 2%, 2 to 3 is 2%. And then it's kind of 1% mostly after that, except for 6 and 7, which is both 5%. 8 and 9 is both 4%. That's the scaling on it. It is If you join the Focus World Discord and go to where it's got discipline and the FAQ, it's within the talent section. They updated a little not too long ago actually. So that information is there if you want to like reread it. But yeah, that's basically diminishing return on sins. Yeah, again with contrition and he's go cool. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so contrition and castigation, you want to be taking those two together. Shadow Covenant be better for M+? No. Because you're looking not only at the additional damage that you're dealing from having sins, allowing you to help push. Okay, on healing only bits, like the last boss on Shrine, then yes, Shadow Covenant could be better. But the, you can Shadow Mend and Penance that really easily. It's not hard to, like, hit the cap. Shadow Covenant useful with some affixes, like Grievous. Again, the damage bonus from sins... No, I'm starting from the beginning, Nalu. We've been here for like an hour. No. The damage increase from sins. Maybe for Grievous Shadow Covenant could be useful to help that top off. Particularly if you've got nothing to hit. But then you're losing overall damage throughout the dungeon. So you kind of want to, I suppose, like sit and think and go, well, actually, do I have some, you know, some big boy DPS with me? It allows me to drop sins to go Shadow Covenant, help out with things like Grievous, or actually, do I need to support a bit more with damage, particularly to discipline, and go sins? I suppose that's kind of maybe a bit of a personal preference. In terms of raiding, Shadow Covenant's a bit of a meme. You see it on a lot of high passes. But if you want to be useful to your raid, you pick sins. That's the consensus I've got from seeing a bit in the Focus World Discord. Shadow Covenant is useful. It's nice. It does not benefit the raid as much as sins. So if you want to pump numbers and you want to get some nice passes, go Shadow Covenant. If you want to actually support your raid in killing something and progressing, actually like progressing a tier, sins the many. Unless you're like really struggling for healing, at which point either go Shadow Covenant to support or swap someone out. That's the kind of general consensus I've gotten, again, from the bits of research I've done. So sins would be good for lower M+, where people require saving. Yes. If you're pushing really high keys, so like if we went and did like a +15 now, Shadow Covenant might be something that I consider, depending on the affixes. But if you're like pulling me into a +5 to boost an ult, I will always go sins. Because it's just so simple to heal it. I suppose that's changed with the patch, but don't worry. So we're on to this next one. So Purge of the Wicked has received an 8% nerf. It's worth knowing that. Halo, as of today, has received a damage and healing reduction by 6%. So this is kind of a talent tier I'm not all too sure on with changes, because I'm waiting on people's theorizing crap to come out, basically. Halo for today was the default choice, generally. I picked Divine Star personally because it was a personal preference and it didn't affect the raid. Simit. Maybe. Divine Star was always just a personal preference for me. particularly in fights like Zekphos or Zul, where I don't want to be breaking CC with Halo. In like last night's raid for Heroic, for example, you don't think all too much because it's not that like scary. So you can kind of just spend a bit of time positioning yourself right and do Halo. But in fights like in Mythic, where you've really kind of just got to be like doing your stuff and healing and not worrying about positioning. On like Zekphos, for example, Divine Stars are so much nicer because you can just aim it. It always fires wherever you look, so I could like look this way, my character's that way, fire out that way. So I think maybe you might have seen on the stream where I was like, you know, I'd be blasting this guy, blasting, and then I've got people here on the left, and I'll just like kind of do a little quick like that and throw it out to the side. Coming into this patch, I wouldn't be surprised if Divine Star starts to pull ahead a bit. But again, that's just something that I need to keep looking out for, seeing what they say, seeing when, you know, like Automatic Jack and Method and such put out videos, see what Josh says, see what Focus Will says, and just kind of wait for them to do their theory crafting in Sim and Excel spreadsheets and shit, and kind of find out from there. Urge of the Wicked, unfortunately, particularly now with another nerf, I only found use for this in PvP. Generally, you want to be taking one of these two in both M+ and in raid. But again, it's generally just personal preference, I think, now, between these two. So that would answer Frank's question as why I haven't been really picking Halo in raids. It can be dispelled, yes, in PvP. But, I mean, when I dispel things like Powered Fortitude off the enemies, and I don't see their priests reapplying it like I do, that usually tells me that they're probably not dispelling my dots. So, not too bad. Because it spreads with penance, and you tend to go castigation, contrition. Sometimes when you do penance an enemy to help with a kill, it spreads a bit, and it's nice. It's nice pressure, you know. It is again worth noting, just like with Holy Nova, that Divine Star and Halo will only proc Atonement off the first damage instance. First thing they hit will proc Atonement. The rest of the things they hit will not proc Atonement. Very important to remember that. So if you're going to save your Halo for like, oh yeah, there's tons of ads, I'm going to use Halo on them, and I'm going to proc so much Atonement. No, you ain't. You're going to proc like one Atonement off like, what is it? Basically 10k damage. So that's like what? 5,500. But the benefit of them both is just generally the damage they deal to help kill off ads. Like I use Divine Star on the Zekphos ads, for example, to help kill them off. And they also do their own healing. Technically, the healing itself, if people are stacked, Divine Star is better. If people are spread, Halo is better. Just because of how many people you're going to hit with it. And then we go on to this last talent. Now, I'm going to get this bit out of the way now. Frank had said, and I see some disc using Luminous Barrier. No. Stop. This talent is garbage. It is literal garbage. Let me see if I can pull up. Do they have it? So, situations where Luminous Barrier would be good are rather rare. The only time where it would be recommended is in raid sizes of 20+ or in easier content. I.e., if there's a lot of unexpected damage, that could help. But if you're playing Discipline and you're worrying about unexpected damage, i.e. you're not prepared, 1,000 years of suffering. Probably want to go and switch to Holy. Basically. Like, don't take this talent. Don't take this talent. It's, what is it? 19.5k. Like, basically, where's the... So basically it heals. It puts a shield on everyone. More or less the same value as Shadow Man. Did you miss something? You missed me telling you how bad Luminous Barrier is and never to take it. Just don't. That's basically a revival. Yeah. But here's the kicker. When you take this, it replaces your power with barrier. Take this talent at all. Oh my god, Nalu, please. Oh. So it replaces your power with barrier. But what are we saying here? What we're saying is that you're going to be taking effectively a revival as an absorb on a 3-minute cooldown, and you're replacing a 3-minute cooldown of grouped up 25% damage reduction, right? Not only are you doing that, you're also not taking evangelism or lenience. That is why you never take that talent. It sounds nice. It sounds like a good talent because it's like, oh, I get a huge absorb on everyone. Oh my god. You're losing your barrier. You're losing your evangelism. Like, why? Why do that to yourself? So, lenience is what you want to be picking in PvP and in dungeons. 3% damage reduction on people who have atonement on them. Passively. It's hard to kind of tell how much use you get out of this sometimes. But you don't have need for evangelism in small group comps. So even if like our 15 man last night, where we did like, you know, the 15 man heroic run, evangelism is still broken OP. Yeah, it's the nerf to evangelism is actually quite nasty and has pissed off quite a few big name disc priests that I know of. Like, yeah, but it's still a very good talent, and I will explain its in and outs. So yeah, in small group comps, even like that 15-man heroic clear last night, I probably could have just gone lenience on Zul, simply because you don't spend as long ramping up, you don't have as many atonements to upkeep. You can probably just benefit more straight from the actual damage reduction over from increased duration. You know, keeping atonements up on 5 people in a Mythic Plus is not difficult. You know, you literally go Radiance, 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 then you have 10 seconds of doing it personally, then you have a Radiance, and 10 seconds of doing it personally, then Radiance, and it just loops between those two forever, basically, during a pull. So that's why lenience is just so much better, because it's just easier to upkeep atonements in small groups. Now, evangelism. Extend the duration of all your active atonements by 6 seconds. Evangelism, it's on a 1-minute 30-second cooldown now. It was on a 1-minute 15-second cooldown. Does not sound like much, but evangelism is what you use on a 20-man to be able to actually have atonement on like more than 12 people at once, maybe more than 15. So what does that mean? It means that's basically where you can then do a counter burst to some damage, i.e. ramping up on Mother when there's the huge damage, ramping up on Vectis for Castigation, Zekphos for Surging Darkness, Talok for Cudgel and or the Heart debuff, Fetid for Stomp, Zul for Dark Revelation, Mithrax for the Imminent Darkness, is it? The two debuffs that get placed, and obviously the burst when he goes through transmission, and then Gahoon, you've got the beams and Wave of Corruption. Then you've obviously got the collapse, and then you also have more Wave of Corruption in the end. Nub has linked me. May I ask what this is you're linking me, Nub? Look at atonement spikes. Yes. Yep. Think you'll still make it all on Holy? I will happily go through Holy once I relearn it, because Binding Heal's crap now. So let me relearn it and then I get to you on that. So basically, this is probably where I should start getting into the math a bit. So, Evangelism extends the duration of your atonements by 6 seconds. Evangelism is on the GCD, so it technically extends them by 4.5 seconds of usefulness per person. So, you cast Evangelism, and then by the time your GCD is extended, you have 4.5 seconds. You have 4.5 seconds left of the evangelismed atonement. So 3 casts, basically: Schism, Powered Solace, Penance. In terms, this is basically the talent you want to be picking in our raids, by the way. If you come and pick disc in any of our raids, you take evangelism. I will be checking your talents, taking evangelism. So, Azeroth traits, by the way, is super quick to cover. You want Depth of Shadows, Enduring Luminescence, and then an all-day trait, preferably Archive of the Titans, because that is better for you than Laser Matrix. There's your Azeroth traits. Just trust me. I can explain why if you want, but those are the 3 traits you want: Depth of Shadows, Enduring Luminescence, Archive of Titans. Obviously, with the double first trait, that might change a bit going into the new raid, Siege of Zul'Zar. But we will see when we get there. So, what, hour and 15? Okay. If there are any questions, next raid we don't have something like the Mother Barriers with 4 DPS. Do you still take evangelism? Yes. I'm gonna go into like the math stuff now. This is why I didn't do this as a video and I did it as a stream. It's because there's a lot to explain. Depth of the Shadows is it was literally the worst talent trait, Azeroth trait that you could get. As of today, it is one of the best traits you can get. So I don't even have that yet. I'm still on freaking Wheel and Woe because it's all that I had. With Enduring Luminescence, you kind of need that one. I didn't upgrade one of my Azeroth pieces like for 15 eye levels because I would lose Enduring Luminescence. Like, I think that's pretty much kind of showing how important that trait is. I'm willing to lose 15 eye levels to keep it on an Azeroth piece. And then Archive is just Archive. If you get Laser Matrix, it's fine. But remember, the damage from Laser Matrix does not proc Atonement. You do not proc Atonement from Laser Matrix damage. Which is why Archive is better. So, before I start getting into the math stuff and timings, which is where you should probably have like a pen and paper ready, maybe. Or a notepad document, whichever you prefer. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask about any of the stuff that I've spoken about so far? or anything that they want me to cover specifically, any like timing stuff, math stuff, what to use over what. Maybe they, anyone want me to like recover something that they want me to just cover a topic again. Does anyone want to know anything more? Don't worry, no, we're getting close to the end now, so you'll be able to do your stream soon. Alright. And actually, while I'm waiting for your questions, if there is any, I'm just gonna note off something. So last night before I went to bed, when I was in chat room with you, I did a test run of my DPS on both Shadow and on Discipline. The Shadow one's a bit weird, so I'm not really gonna look at that too much. But Discipline, I went from 7.5k on this guy. I went from 7.5k DPS consistent with 8k when I was doing my burst rotation to today, which was 5.7k consistent and 6k when I did my. So I have lost 2k on my burst and I've lost 1.8k DPS consistent from this fucking patch. So thanks Blizz. Still doing more than other healers, but not really kind of pushing with tank. Oh, I'd rather do it with a horse-sized sheep or a sheep-sized horse. Because the horse kills you if it does you, so like probably the horse-sized sheep, because at least that thing won't kill me. Yeah, not. Hey Yoda. All you've missed so far, Yoda, is basically spells, talents, and a little bit about traits. Oh look, a wild owie, he's famous. Hi mom. Yeah, you've just missed like my overview of like the class itself. I'm about to go into like math stuff now, so this maybe might interest you. So I'm assuming there's no questions because none of you asked anything. So, right. And this thing I want to talk about first. So let's cover a few kind of small bits. Frog, god damn it. Let's cover like a few of the in 80 minutes. That's more than enough time for me, so yeah. Yeah, don't fall asleep at 5 AM. Oh Jesus, there's a Pokemon freak. Actually, yeah, there might be one near me. I might do that. So okay, let's kiss the frog. So with penance, I mentioned this a bit earlier on. With, I don't know if this will. I probably won't. I'm not gonna mess it. So the number I've got in front of me, my penance deals 9.2k damage with the 55% of that damage going through atonement. I've worked it out to 5.2k, nearly 5.3k of actual atonement healing, whereas the healing direct of penance is 20.5k. So basically, when you're again, when there's 3 targets that need healing, you will technically gain more HPS through defensively penancing someone with the current build I have, than you will by dealing damage to a boss and having an atonement on those 3 people. Right? Hey, Liffet. So in general raid situations, if there's like a couple of people being hit, you're probably better off just defensively penancing one of them, particularly if it's a tank. So for instance, you want to be applying Shadow Man to the person soaking the full on Zul and then defensively penancing them if they take a bit more damage. And that's kind of where you need to think a bit during raids, and just kind of think like, actually, how many people are taking damage right now? Can I just powered radiance? I'm gonna fucking mute him in a minute. You want to think, actually, can I have powered radiance and then penance and get more value out of that, because you're getting 5 targets, because 4 or more targets is better to offensively penance than defensively penance? Or is it like, actually, is it just a couple of people taking damage? I'm sure the other healers have one of them. I'll get the other with a penance, you know, 20k healing over 1.7 seconds. That's kind of a little bit with that. One thing with applying atonement, this is something that you mentioned yesterday. Fine, starting again. No, we're an hour in, Liffet, so you got a lot of watching, buddy. One thing worth noting with applying atonement, you mentioned this yesterday to Nub. If you use Shadow Mend, because the heal is at the end of the cast and technically at the end of the GCD, it applies atonement at the end. Whereas if you use Powered Shield, because it hits them immediately at the beginning of the GCD, it will apply atonement at the beginning of the GCD. What does this mean? What this means is that you can technically get 2 15-second atonements out like that if you Shadow Mend into Powered Shield. With the trait of Depth of the Shadows increasing your atonement duration applied by Shadow Mend by 2 seconds, what that means is when you have that talent, you want to be blanketing the raid you ramp up using Shadow Mend, because it will go 17 seconds start instead of 15 seconds start, and therefore helping you with your ramp up, gives you a bit more time, might even allow you to have all 20 people with a reasonable amount of atonement time on them, rather than just like 18 and then the extra 2 people kind of get like 1 cast worth of atonement. Only an hour, yeah. So if you get the Depth of the Shadows trait, you want to be using Shadow Mend to apply your ramp up. Otherwise, you still want to be just using Rapture and Powered Shield for the time being. When you're ramping up, the general timing that I have found is that you want to apply 9 atonements. No, you want to apply 8 atonements, sorry. Let's get the math right. You want to apply 8 atonements, and then you want to double Radiance and Evangelism. Or you can single Radiance, Evangelism, Radiance again. Depending on the kind of burst. The reason for this, so you're applying Atonement on a 1.5 second GCD. Atonement lasts for 15 seconds. How many times does 1.5 go into 15 seconds? 10. So what that means is that once you apply your 10th Atonement, I'll explain that in a sec lift. So once you apply your 10th Atonement and the GCD ends from casting Powered Shield, your very first Atonement will be just running out. So it is effectively currently more or less impossible to have a full blanket on a 20-man, because we can't upkeep as many atonements as we could in Legion. So Legion, you could keep about 15 to 18 consistently, whereas now we can keep 12 to 15 atonements consistently during a raid. So don't be worried all too much about not blanketing an entire raid. Sometimes you're going to miss 1 or 2 people. I tend to on Mother, so you want to basically do the 8th Atonement. You went to the toilet and missed the ramp up thing. Do you want me to run over it again? Or do you want to run back over this VOD at some point? I don't mind going over it again if you want me to. You can watch it back. Okay. So yeah, so I'm still kind of going through it, but so yes, you want to like hit your eighth atonement, and at that point you've got like 3 seconds left on your very first atonement. So you could either do 7 atonements, double Radiance Evangelism, but then you're missing 3 people. This is why I do 8 atonements, Radiance, Evangelism, Radiance, because then yes, your second Radiance is only 10.5 seconds from having Enduring Luminescence, and you won't gain the extra 4.5 seconds worthwhile use of it. Hot Rapture, spam power, shield during Rapture, then 1 or 2 Radiance, then Avenge. No lead for double with 50-man raid. Yeah, it's different in smaller raid groups. You just you adjust the size of your ramp up based off the size of the group. But this is in a general 20-man setting, in Mythic, for example, because that's where this kind of caps itself, is around 18 to 20 people. So yeah, you do the 8 Radiance, then you do Evangelism, Radiance again. So then effectively after that second Radiance, you've got 9 seconds worth of atonement on that. Your very first atonement will go to 1.5 seconds, then it'll be boosted by 6 and then go down to 4.5 seconds. It's 6, 4.5. Your very first atonement will have 3 seconds left on it, so you'll have 2 casts. So you'll basically get your Schism and your Solace off that very first atonement you put out, and you won't be covering 2 people. What is the timing for Shadowward Pain during ramp up? Can you squeeze it in between Radiance or cast it after Avenge and before Schism? Normally, in a general kind of opening burst, you want to cast it before Schism. However, do not want to be spending your ramp up GCDs, your GCD allowance as such, on a Shadowward Pain when you're doing a counter burst. Hi Arky, by the way, I see you. You don't want to be using a Shadowward Pain, so you either want to pre-cast Shadowward Pain at the beginning of your ramp up, and basically like as you're ramping up, your Shadowward Pain is ticking, so you're dealing some atonement healing, or you're not actually doing any DPS, or you can weave it in after your burst. 13 viewers, poggers, let's go. So then you can just like do your ramp up, do your Revenge, do your Radiances, yada yada, and then you go into your burst rotation, which is Schism, Solace, Penance, Divine Star / Halo. And then after you've done that, you can then Shadowward Pain and then Smite. But it's kind of you pretty much want to be smiting. Yeah, I would say cast it before your ramp up. So you wanna, if you're gonna do Rapture, be nice, Nub, be nice. Yeah, so if you're gonna Rapture into your ramp up, you're looking at basically Shadowward Paining, Rapturing, and then doing a ramp up, and you're probably gonna have a fresh Shadowward Pain run out roughly when you're Evangelism. Yeah, so yeah, I would say Shadowward Pain, Rapture, Ramp, and it will end around the time you use Evangelism, which is when you're basically kind of at your burst, so you're not gonna really have a minor bit of downtime, is what I would recommend. But please do more research, or like see what other people think, ask in Discords and such. But that would be my opinion. You're gonna get more out of using Smite and making sure you don't cuck your own ramp up. Because literally when you're ramping up, every second counts. Every GCD counts. Just because of the remaining atonement timer and being able to heal as many people as you can. So I think what else now? Covered it a bit before earlier, but I'll just reiterate this again now. When you're applying atonements to a small group of people, applying applying 2 atonements, so 1 to each tank, as an example. 1 to a tank, the other one to the person soaking the Zul pool. That you want to be doing Shadow Mend or Powered Radiance on. 3 or more people, so 3 to 5 people, if you're healing a small group. You want to be using Powered Radiance, reason being, more mana efficient. So it's like, it's 9,000 mana for 3 Shadow Mends. It's roughly 7.8 thousand mana for 3 Powered Shields, whereas 6,500 mana for 5 Atonements Powered Radiance. That's just something that you just need to manage your you can internally manage your charge usage. Powered Radiance, know that when you can use them and still have them up your ramp. That's just stuff that you'll get through doing just through playing. These emotes. What else? What other mass stuff we can get on with? And again, guys, genuine questions. None of this, would you do this or that crap, nub. Any kind of other questions, again, just with mass stuff? Wanting to know timings. The reason for doing Schism Solace Penance into Halo/Divine Star, by the way, is because show you on this device Solace and then Penance, you can see Solace is slightly ahead in its CD, but it will match up with Penance. So then when they come off CD, you can just Solace Penance again, and it kind of keeps that like mini rotation. So you can pretty much always Penance when you're Solace. That's the reason for that specific ordering. Choosing Shadow Mend over Shield was approximate 60%. Yes, so the choice of Shadow Mending someone or shielding someone is, will they benefit from the healing? Now, you need to remember, generally in a raid situation, particularly when we have AoE, is particularly when we have AoE, Mistweaver, we'll get to that, nub. You need to remember there are other classes much better at spot healing than, I mean like a lot better at spot healing than. So when you're looking to use the difference between Powered Shield and Shadow Mending, you want to look for around 50 to 60% HP, because then you're generally not going to have your Shadow Mend healing fucked effectively, or wasted, because then you're basically spending extra mana and you're losing an absorb and you're just supplying the same atonement. You know? You're not gaining anything at Shadow Mend at that point. That's why I say use it around 50 to 60%, because at that point you're going to kind of know that you're going to get the heal off. As for what Nub asked, if after patch it's pretty much Shadow Mend if the heal went over heal. That's if you have the depth of the shadows trait, because of the extra 2 seconds. Particularly if you have that trait, you want to be looking to use Shadow Mend a hell of a lot more. But the difference now is that it was meant to be 2.7% max mana, it's now 2.65% of max mana. Basically, Powered Shield has gained a nerf, its mana has just been increased, so it's getting closer to Shadow Mend. I would say normally still follow that rotation of around 50 to 60%. You want to be looking to Shadow Mend to gain the heal, whereas with Powered Shield, you want to be using the hell is that emote? You want to just be using Shield generally. The normal ramp up. However, yeah, with the depth of the shadows trait, you want to be using Shadow Mend to apply during a ramp up, because you're giving yourself that extra 2 seconds on your atonement, which, as I just explained with like the ramp up timing, every second counts, every GCD counts. This may allow you to heal like one extra person. This might allow you to have an extra second or an extra GCD on the first atonement that you apply when you're doing this ramp up, which just means more effectiveness, you know, in your counter burst again. AoE ability. Am I getting more gay than Pilav? I don't know. I don't know who Pilav is. That's generally the thing with Shadowmend over Shield when you're doing like a blanket atonement. Do you always try to keep atonement on both tanks if you can reach them? No. So the thing to try and learn with atonement and using it effectively, overhealing doesn't matter all too much with discipline. You're always going to be doing overhealing, right? Unless you're like doing stupid amounts, don't worry about it. You want to be, if you are going to be casting Shield, Shadowmend, Radiance, you want that atonement to be for a reason. So having, you know, shield, having atonement on both tanks, if only one tank's going to be taking damage for that 15 seconds, if they're not going to taunt like for another 15, 20 seconds or whatever, like, what's the point in putting atonement on them? You're not only wasting a GCD, you're not only wasting mana, you're gaining no benefit from it, you know? And even then, if the tank doesn't get hit by anything, you've just wasted an absorb that could have gone on someone who's actually going to get use out of it. So this is where your knowledge of like the this is where your knowledge of the fights, this is where your knowledge of the timings, this is where your knowledge of the abilities and what they do and what's important and what's not important is really going to come into play. And then you're going to know, actually, I'm not going to, you know, shield either of the tanks because, you know, we have Owie, who's a Mistweaver, amazing spot healer. He's got the tanks. I'll focus on like the 5-man group that's just about to get like an AoE burst. You're right there. Doge. So one trick pony monk, yeah, pretty much. So you generally want to upkeep atonement on the tank that is tanking, because they are consistently taking damage. Therefore, if you are spamming smite in your downtime, you're not only putting the absorb on the boss, you're also actually doing that little bit of tick healing to the tank, helping out, just keeping them alive. Tell me more about him. He's that guy who got banned in my Twitch chat. This was a lot more engaging than Holy. Yeah, so very handsome, probably. So that's where you don't want to be just upkeeping atonement on both tanks for the sake of upkeeping atonement. You want to just be smart with applying it. Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, Holy has him and Salve. Holy is also a very straightforward and basic bitch class. So Disc is a lot more thought. Yeah. One little note. You'll notice sometimes that like if you use Divine Star, your Divine Star will come off cooldown before your Schism. Same with your Solace and your Penance. Sometimes they will come off cooldown before your Schism does. It is okay to save your Solace, Penance, and Divine Star CDs and not use them. Save them for Schism if you're going to be using Schism. But even then, if you're going to be saving your Schism for like another 10 seconds because there's a burst ability coming up, you know, like we've said with kind of Solace and Penance, their CDs are like 10 seconds, so you could get another use of Solace and Penance in and then save your Schism, saving Schism for 10 seconds. Divine Star, maybe not. Halo, definitely not. So you want to kind of just mentally plan out like, okay, when am I using Schism? Am I going to use it when it comes off cooldown to get some DPS out, get some healing out, or do I need to save it? If you don't need to save it, you might as well just use it, get the extra 40% damage buff for 9 seconds, and then just, you know, wait that extra couple of seconds on like your Divine Star, your Schism, your Solace, and your Penance. Combo those together, because you're getting 40% extra damage, you're getting more use out of it by waiting that couple of seconds than you are just by using it on cooldown. So that's kind of the one point you're okay to not use Solace on cooldown. How would you prefer to use Pain Suppression? I would prefer to use it before damage comes in. So i.e. using it... Does it last again? It's 10 seconds, right? 8 seconds. So you tank Thrash it on Fetid. If Fetid doesn't queue his abilities, it comes in once every 6 seconds. So if you can cast it just as the cast is coming in, you can get 2 Thrashes covered on the off tank using Pain Suppression, which might help in Enrage phase. Tank callout, yes. Tanks should 100% be calling out for externals. Any situation, any raid or M+, if they need it. Absolutely 100% should be calling out. It's kind of part of their job. You imagine a good Holy Priest could get 3 salves off on Zekphos? No, they get 2. Good Holy Priest will get 1 salve off on the very first Surging Darkness, and they'll get a 2nd salve off on the very last Surging Darkness. I've covered the majority of it. A couple of rules to remember, guys. Don't use Holy Nova. Don't use Holy Nova. Don't use Luminous Barrier. Couple of... Don't use Twist of Fate. Very few kind of baseline bits. What do you look at before to plan either shield or mend on people? Incoming damage and their health. For instance, when Crossfire was soaking the pool last night on Zul, I was shadow mending him. Wasn't Zekphos like 15 minutes? Oh, if it was 15 minutes, no. Oh, like who to heal or shield first? So if you're like a professional, this game, i.e. not me, you'll prioritize certain people based off the damage incoming. So for instance, if you're going to be ramping up on Alok for an ability and they have like the blood stack, like the drops the blood coming in, you'll want to like shield the people getting the blood first, because they'll have more use out of it at that point. Or some of things like Mother, you probably want to shielding group 1 first, just to get atonement out on them, because at least the people in your room, you can kind of spot heal after you've done your major burst, because they'll be in your room, whereas you won't reach the people in the other room. Especially if like Aoi's going through first, he's probably going to be focusing a bit more on the ads, on dispelling, on getting his leg sweep out, on making sure that they're interrupted, than he is on kind of spot healing a bit. So that's kind of where having your atonement on those, at least for the first push through, is going to support the other healers moving through. While they're moving, not really able to cast. If there's a wind upcoming, it might just help topping people up just before the wind, so that they can, you know, do their bits of healing in the other room, and then you just focus on your group in your room. If you're going last, of course, like I normally do. So yeah, basically just damage pans, who's going to get hit. Otherwise, it doesn't. Yeah, you focus on the. Yeah, exactly. But generally, 9 times out of 10, if you're using, here's a big tip actually. If you're using Rapture and you're going to be shielding like a bunch of people during a ramp up, big tip: don't shield people taking damage. Sorry, don't shield people taking damage. Reason being is if you're going to use a Rapture Shield on a tank, they're going to lose it like that, right? It's going to be gone. Whereas if you put it on other people and there's a big AoE burst, what are you doing? You're putting Rapture on targets that aren't going to lose that shield by the time the burst until like the big burst that you're countering comes in. What that means, 5 pots in. This is why I don't pre-pot. I need to buy some more. I've got like 83k gold. So you're applying Rapture to targets that aren't going to take damage, because then when that big burst does come in, you're not only like absorbing some of it with the Rapture Shield, but then you're also saving your own mana. You're also making your counter burst a lot easier because you've not got as much health to heal because of the Rapture Shield giving more like effective health. And that also means you might not need as much support from other healers, so they can maybe focus on things like spot healing people with certain bursts. They might be able to actually deal some damage and not have to worry about the incoming burst because you've got it covered. Yeah. That's one big tip I can give, is if you're going to use Rapture and you're going to ramp up with shields, focus on shielding people who aren't going to be, because you so much more value out of the shield from the big burst. Whereas the individual damage coming in, you could say, oh well, yeah, the shield's going to like absorb the tank damage that they're taking, and that means that like they have more effective health going into the burst. While that's true, what are your other healers doing if you need to be doing that? Why aren't they spot healing? Why aren't they covering the tanks? Why don't they have hots on them or single target healing out? You know, they should be able to keep the tanks more than happily topped and healthy, and they'll have their own personals and their own mitigation to be able to counter that burst damage. So your Rapture realistically just shouldn't be used on them. You should be using it on targets that are going to benefit from the additional shield for when the burst goes off. Yeah, five pots in inventory. I need to buy some more. That's what I'm going to be doing. Most likely tomorrow. I'm also running out of coffee. Do we have any more questions? Just keep them flowing. How big is your Pepe? Really big Pepe. Yes. One thing as well, actually, when you look at your healing done, so again, if I pull up the, do you have a Magnum Dongik? Yes. Why do you have any 5 pots? Because who pre-pots a Megalore? I need to sort that out. I just haven't bought any. I've only recently come into some gold, so Gucci. You'll see on my atonement healing, I have atonement critical. Now, okay, thank you, Howie. I'll get onto I'll get onto pre-pots actually. I'll go onto pre-pots and consumables, so that's a good shout. You'll see atonement critical. It is worth knowing atonement itself does not crit. The actual heal itself doesn't crit. Atonement critical is when your damage abilities crit. So if your smite, if your penance, if your schism, if your solace, divine star, holy nova, if you've actually used it, if that crits, it will show as atonement critical in your, like, well, at least in details. I imagine it does in SCADA and Recount. That's just so you know. I guess it's a nice way of seeing, like, actually I my crits that did this much worth of atonement healing versus just normal atonement healing from normal damage. But yeah, there's no double dip. There's no oh, I crit on this damage, which then crit on atonement. No, it's just the damage that crits, not the atonement healing itself. Just in case you see things like this on your details and you get confused. And yes, Holy Nova, I have no idea why I've got it on my bar, but it's there. I press it for the memes during dungeons. So for consumables, you obviously want your int flask. Obviously, you want swamp fish and chips because of haste. Haste is best stat along with grip, but you just want generally to be going for haste because it's couldn't use properties for it in raid. Do not press this button, especially in a raid. Never press this button in a raid. I have it there for dungeons, but I never press it. But you want Potion of Replenishment for your mana. Are a mana hungry class. You can destroy your mana pool like a minute and a half into a pull. You decide to burst out a pre-plan. Yeah, I'll get to that in a sec. Always use Holy. No, never use Holy Nova. What was I saying? Yep, so Potion of Replenishment, you're a very mana class. In about a minute and a half into a fight, you could probably burn your mana pool if you really wanted to. That's why this is important, because you will be burning mana. Part of a good disc player is being able to keep up your burst, keep up some atonements, keep up dealing healing, dealing damage, while managing your mana. That's kind of where a bit more of the difficulty of it comes in. But generally, keeping Solace on cooldown, using Smite in your downtime, and just effectively deciding whether or not to Shadow Mend or to Powered Shield in some cases is just becomes natural. Again, as you play Discipline, as you play it in fights, as you play it in raids, you will pick up your muscle memory, start to learn where to be using things. Although I would recommend sitting down, looking through some logs, looking through some Warcraft logs, looking through some cast timings, and just learning the kind of timings you want to be looking for, looking at when the boss abilities come in, having a think of like, okay, this is on this CD, that's on that CD, when can I position this, when can I do this, and then kind of having a think and, okay, have a play around. Oh, actually no, if I do it this often in this merge, I'm going to burn mana way too quickly. Maybe I need to drop this burst in the middle and then do the two side ones, help with my mana. That's just, again, that comes with research and playing. As for pre-pots, Potion of Intellect, if there's healing to be done within the first minute. So if you are a Discipline Priest or Mother in our group, you should be using this potion, this pre-pot, to support with the healing, which I totally do, 100%. But yeah, you should be using that when there's healing to be done. If there is not healing to be done and you're just doing damage, you should be standing as far away from the boss as you possibly can. And as you always says, using pre-pot Rising Death. Rising Death sends something to the target you're attacking. It deals more damage the further it has to travel, so that's what you're pre-potting on Tekphos when you're just dealing damage for like the first 40 seconds, 50 seconds maybe. If I remember right. And, you know, you're basically just like pulling Tekphos, you're going, right, Shadow Fiend, Shadowed Pain, Schism, Solace, Penance, Divine Star, Smite, Solace, Penance, Smite, Powered, Shadowed Pain. That's where that damage is just going to support that initial push. Rising Death is better than Battle Pot of Agility / Insight Strength on single target. Yes. Like I said, for healers, you want to be using your Imp Pot if there's healing to be done, like huge healing to be done pretty early on in the fight. Which other than Mother, basically Mother's the only fight you want to be doing on that one. Every other fight you want to be doing Rising Death. And then your pot during a raid, during a pull, is always, always, always your potion of replenishment. Do not be using battle pots when it's called for to deal DPS. Literally want to be using potion of replenishment to get your mana back. You are going to be doing so much more as a healer with an additional quarter of your mana back, a quarter of your whole mana pool, 25%, than you will be with like a bit of extra and going boom. It's the fact of it. So a couple of questions you had. So must have missed it when you're not pre-potting battle pot on Zul and save your pot for potion of replenishment. Yep. If you're on about the intellect one, battle pot, yeah. For discipline, you only want to be using that one on Mother. You're not going to have a full burst rotation on Zul or Gahoon within the first minute. So, within the first 25 seconds even. Sorry, it used to be a minute. Yeah, so for specifically pre-parting, Mother Battle Potion. Every other fight is always Raising Death for discipline. So sorry, yeah. So when you decide to burst outside the pre-panned, that comes with knowing fight. The way to answer that question is learn the fight. Basically. That's all I could say to that. That's part of learning the spec, you know. You look and you go, okay. Titan Spark is coming out. Oh look, the Sithilid ads are smacking melee when, you know, they spawn on Zekphos. If you're not bursting anything, if you're not ramping up to burst anything at that point, you want to just put a Powered Radiance on the melee group. You know, hope it hits most of the melee and just go, okay. Powered Radiance is out on the melee group. They get smacked by Sithilids, so the damage that you're going to be dealing to help kill off the Sithilid ads is only just going to help heal up the melee. On Cudgel, for example, on Talok, sorry, if you've got someone else covering the heart debuff, and then you've got Cudgel coming in, you could pop out like a small burst to help out with Cudgel if you're not full burst rotating. I'm going to think of other examples. Vectis is usually quite nice. You can, you know, Silithids. Yes, okay, yes, Silithids, not Sithilids. Silithids, thank you. On Vectis, for example, sometimes having a nice little Powered Radiance out to do a small burst on a few people if there's a bit like if Gestate comes out and you're not, you know, if you're not burst rotating Contagion, and Gestate always comes out just before Contagion does, you could find the person, you know, have it on your Raid Frames who has Gestate on them, Powered Radiance them, hope you hit most of the people in that group, and then just syphilis, and then basically just burst rotate the boss, because someone else is going to have the burst counter for the Contagion burst that comes in, so they're going to, you know, revival, trank, whatever, whereas you're just going to be doing that small burst rotation on the people around Gestate, taking the extra damage from it, just to support pushing them up in terms of health bar, not only for Contagion but also for the immunosuppression cast that comes in. And then you had another question also, how do you deal with downtime when you don't need to heal and have pain up, since Smite costs mana? Right, Smite is mana efficient. You will still regen mana, so if I hold on, let me try and burn a bunch of mana. Do you see this number here? I can't even keep shielding myself anymore. I have to shadow a fucking Shadowman. Alright, so this number's my mana. It's quite small, quite hard to see. I apologize. You'll see the you can't see it on your phone. Okay, I'm just gonna like spam the crap out of stuff and just burn mana. Okay, so you see the blue bar, right? I'm like casting stuff, I'm putting shields out on people, so forth. Penance, Shadow Man, we'll get another Radiance out and that'll burn enough mana. Right, and Evangelism. So, I'm going to start casting Smite on this. Literally, this thing costs 500 mana. And has a 1.2 second cast time, which is roughly my GCD right now. So, like, I'm already at like 53k mana, 54k mana, 55k mana, 56k mana. Like, you will not lose mana casting Smite. You will always gain mana casting Smite, which is why it's your filler spell. It is obviously not as quick as just sitting here and being a meme, not casting anything. So the reason why you do it is because the only other thing you can do other than casting Smite is standing here looking like a meme. Literally the only thing you can do is Discipline. You don't have other spells you can just sit there and use instead of Smite that will allow you to still be effective not only in DPSing down an ad or a boss, but also in HPSing and healing your raid. Wand easy, don't get me started on that doge. So if you want to be like basically dead weight in a raid while you're regenerating mana, yeah, sit there and do nothing. Or attack with staff. But yeah, you should always, if you are sitting there doing nothing, that is time you should be casting Smite. The only time I will ever expect someone not to do something, which is I have done before, is if I know there's a burst upcoming, right, that I need to get some sort of small ramp out for, and and I've already used my mana pot, right? That's the one time I would personally consider it acceptable. Stand there and do nothing, because you're going to be countering a burst that comes in, so you just want as much mana as you possibly can, right? You know, if it's over like 12 seconds, which is what 8 GCDs, that's 500 mana, so you're talking about 4,000 mana you could gain by simply not casting Smite over those 12 seconds. Quick maths, by the way. So that's kind of the point, I suppose. Like, over 12 seconds you're only losing like 4,000 mana, but if there is that burst upcoming, then yeah, okay, fair enough. But you should never be getting to that situation. You should always be better with your mana conservation. You should be looking to use Solace still on cooldown, because Solace is free, it does not cost mana, and it gains you 1% of your maximum mana back when you cast it, i.e. 1,000 mana. So you want to be casting Solace on cooldown still, but otherwise spam Smite. You should never ever be getting to that point of being with no pot, because that just means you just didn't understand the fight that well, you didn't time your stuff right, you went a bit too big dick in some situations. That's when you can look at your burst, look how effective it was, and go, actually in this situation I did tons of overhealing, so maybe I can drop that bit of a burst, not go as ham in that situation, because that will not only save me mana, but it means I can use that later in the fight where I can actually be more effective, rather than just being cucked by other healers in a situation where I shouldn't really need to be bursting and ramping up. Also, unless you get used to healing with 2 discs, don't you constantly fuck each other. This is the exact same thing with any class, and this is the reason why we do the healing CD planner. You can cuck any healer with any healer. It's particularly Revival. You can heal raids with 2 discipline. It's perfectly fine. It's a thing. You just need to make sure that you ramp up for different things. But you're generally better off, particularly with 8.1, where at least with Method, because Nub was quicker most of the times yesterday. I mean, for some fights I can see that, but other fights there was more than enough healing to still be done. So you both should be supplementing each other, considering you were both also under geared. Like Sonic. So you generally just need to plan out between the two disciplines in a raid, like who's doing what. But as I was gonna say, like with Method's recent video, for those of you who haven't watched it, they did a recent video doing the projected ranking for healers in 8.1. It was done by Chris Potter. Basically, they've put Holy on top. So generally, if we go into a raid with 2 priests as healers, I would want one as Disc and one as Holy Priest. Disc Rid versus So High You Prob. Don't want them to overlap ever. Oh yeah. So I'll start with your dog in the way. Yeah, so you can have 2 disciplines in one raid. That's perfectly fine. That is just where, like we're saying, like you want to be looking at like where's their burst rotation, what can they upkeep and when, what can they cover, and you want to kind of just be planning it out so it's like they're one after the other and they don't cover the same thing. Because if you do have them covering the same thing, one of them will win. Like, it's not even a matter of like they'll even each other out. Maybe with like 2 resto chamois, it will just AoE heal, you know, and kind of just help each other out, or 2 resto druids where they will kind of just spot heal each, which is kind of why it's a bit redundant having 2. But whereas 2 disciplines can just pick their moments, have separate moments from each other, and just burst and push it through. But again, as with like the Method video, the projected HPS and the projected throughput of Holy Priest coming into this patch is going to be quite high. So again, if we have 2 Breeding Priests in our raid, we're going to want one of them as Discipline and one of them's Holy, because Salvation's still a huge cooldown. The additional healing buff from Divine Hymn is still quite nice, particularly in some situations where like probably 1 priest, 1 pally, 1 chamois, 1 monk. I would personally put that as 1 priest, 1 pally. No, I would personally put that as 2 priest, 1 pally, 1 monk, and then 1 chamois for 5 heal fights. Is what I would put that as personally, because you'd want a Disc, a Holy, a pally for single target and nice utility, and then you want a monk for a mixture of throughput in both single and multi-target, and then you want the chamois, the additional one, to come in for 5 heal fights, because they don't bring a lot more HPS, but they bring a lot more utility. For what we have, the idea. So something that Nubs kind of said the other day in raid discussion, and something that I watched an Automatic Jack video last night actually, that kind of agreed with it. Of, you know, your chamois and your pallies are quite low HPS because they bring better utility. Whereas if you look at something like a Holy Priest, they bring some nice utility with like Guardian Angel's quite nice, Hymn's nice for a nice AoE healing along with Salvation. But then the HPS throughput is just disgusting. So you're going to get so much more use out of that than you will from like a pally or well, than you will from a chamois. Pally maybe not. Which is why I would prefer 2 priests, 1 pally, 1 monk, and then having the chamois come in for specific fights, because again, you got to remember Evo, Aura, and Sack freedoms. Yeah, that's why I corrected myself a little bit there. Versus chamois. Chamois healing is kind of nice, but it's not as good as your Holy Priests, as your monks, as your well, as your druids. Druids. not so much anymore. The chain heal buffs though, So Druid, Druid, we're gonna need to really kind of put through the test a bit, kind of see how much it has changed. Should you gear your priest? Yes. Wait. chain hill buff with high tide. Throughput's still not going to be enough. The utility's nice, but your throughput, you need people to be low, which generally in a raid you don't really want, but it happens. And then you kind of want people generally to be stacked to be gain, you know, from my knowledge of watching podcast the other day, you still want to be picking Wellspring. You still want people to not kind of be stacked, but you still want to be getting used out of that. You still get like your healing rain and such. So would you rather a Chamois or a Holy Priest than a fight like Fetid? You'd rather the Holy Priest over a Chamois. Would you rather a Chamois or a Holy Priest in Vectis? Well, there are groups that have ran 3 Holy Priests. Like, you know, Shaman and Holy Priest in things like Vectis where you are stacked. You know? Oh yeah, the okay, so yeah, to note by the way with the high tide buff about the mana, that talent's shit. It's fucking terrible. You're never going to be taking that anyway. Yeah, 40k mana to proc on 2 chain heals is not good. And also, as Nub said earlier on, Frank, nice healing. Yeah, really nice healing, by the way, last night, Frank. Good. Fucking Nub's positivities in chat. Subs. Yeah, you did really good last night, buddy. Okay, so Holy Priest I'm not going to do anything on yet because I need to relearn it. I've not played it a lot. That's crazy. I've not played it a lot this expansion, and all that I knew was that Binding Hill was broken, which it is. Well, sorry, it was. It's not now. So I now actually need to kind of look through the changes, look through the talents, and try and get like a mental idea of like what to kind of do with that. Had to go resub with Prime to Nub. Hope it was worth it. It is. The new chain heal buff was nice, yeah, but you still take Wellspring. Holy Priest, heal single target, prayer multi-target, Holy Words and CD. Yeah, pretty much. It's just working out the intricacies of which one to use and when. Like in terms of targets. That's just a me being picky thing. But in a general sense. So I suppose the reason why I've done this is because, and Automatic Jack put this really well, the skill ceiling between an average Disc Priest versus your top tier Disc Priests, people like him, Josh, yada yada, is quite high. There's quite a variance between the two. There's a lot to learn, there's a lot to know, there's a lot to time and plan. The difference between a average Holy Priest, again, me, and your top tier Holy Priest is a lot smaller. There's a lot less of a difference. It's just working out a few timings, just a few ability prioritizations, and that. This is fucking OC playlist. No, this is Sysmix. Actually, this song specifically is from Osu. This is where I found it. But it's just the album on loop at the moment. It's a nice album, it's quite chill. But yeah, so the skill ceiling between the two classes is very different. So you can generally just be fine just picking up a Holy Priest and just thinking. To put it bluntly, just think, and you will do fine. Whereas Discipline actually requires some research and some, you know, sit down. Which is why I've done this today, is going into 8.1, I'm having a bit of a nosedive myself, and I'm also kind of sharing my knowledge with you guys who want to maybe get into... am I going to heal as a H Pally? So Discipline's still going to be really good in 8.1. We're probably going to get nerfed more, so... I need to know what you guys are doing. Because obviously I know if it's going to come off as Druid. I know you might come off your Chamois, Frank. Nub's really enjoying Priest, so he might choose that instead of his Monk. I know Harry's a Monk, Harry's always a Monk. So, it's like I've said before. Me going to H Pally is more a change of pace, if anything, because I've been playing this priest since I joined this guild. So if you guys want to pick up like priests and stuff like that, and you want to, you know, use what I've done in the stream today and earn disc and sit down and time, like, feel free. But I know until there's someone in our raid that can take my spot as a disc priest, I'm gonna need to be a disc priest because we need them. We need one. So, not, you know, it's not to sound big-headed or anything, but like, it's the situation. We need a disc priest in the raid, and currently, at least to my knowledge, I'm the one who can, who's been doing it, who can do it. You know, this is why I want to help other people learn the classes, so that I'm not the only person who, unless there's someone who's like hiding in the fucking shadows who can just like smash me out the fucking water and disc and just hasn't said anything. There's advertisements. I don't even get money from that. I'm looking at Shadow and Heal Priest facts. Yeah. So Shadow Priest, I want to play around with a bit. Watch the VOD. Watch the VOD. You're gonna watch the VOD anyway, if it's, and you're leveling a paladin. Winston says he'd be great at Disc Priest. Get Winston in. He said he has a big head. Basically, yeah. He said woof. That's what he meant. Yeah, of course. You're a dog whisperer, you know? You're that gay Asian guy from that fucking TV show, Dog Whisperer. Yeah, what I would say is it doesn't matter too much right now in order, because we're going to be, we're still kind of, not like out gearing, but we're still pushing quite nicely with gear, so it doesn't matter all too much, until we basically get to a point where maybe it becomes a problem. But I would say for certain, I need to know beginning of January. I need to know what you want to be doing. Reaching out my nation. Oh my god. But yeah, beginning of January, all you healers, I need to know exactly what you're doing, because that's where the new raid will be coming out on the 22nd of January. So I need to kind of start prepping what ult I'm actually gonna like full-blown gear during January, and get ready for the new raid, basically. And no, there won't be a druid. There will not be a druid. So I'm going to assume we've had no more questions. That's all I kind of want to say about Disc. There's maybe a few things I've forgotten, because we've been going a little for 2 hours and 10 minutes. Fucking hell. Again, with the druid, we need to kind of see how it performs tomorrow, but I'm not expecting great things. Yeah, druid DPS, druid tanks, both are fine to my knowledge. Even tanks can be nice. Yeah, like I've heard nice things about balance. Not balance, fucking whatever the bear form, guardian druid. That's it. Arky feels weird, man. But Resto, yeah, it's feral tank. Sorry, yeah, feral tank. That was the first thing that actually came to mind after I said balance. Yeah, I'm gonna assume there's nothing I can kind of think I've forgotten. You know, specifics per boss, I don't mind sitting down and giving my knowledge, but what I would say is go and do your own research first. If you come to me saying, what do I do for this boss, I'm going to tell you to go and do it. If you come to me and say, hey, I've looked at like Vectis and I think I can do this, this, and this with Discipline Priest, and this means that like this cooldown lines up with this and I can cover that, yada yada yada, then I will help you. Because research is not Ask Roberto. No. I'm gonna put this out there now. If you're gonna be playing this class, and you're going to be actually trying to get it in like the main progression team, and you're going to be sitting down, you're going to go into next raid tier, and you're going to be the main discipline priest of the raid, you are going to need to be doing research. You're going to need to be knowing what you're doing in each fight, where you can plan stuff. Yes, I will be planning the CDs myself, but your intricacies of the small bursts, for example, and knowing what you can do with your class, you should be researching it. More so for discipline than other classes, I would say, just because of the way it works with atonement. But you should just be doing that. So no, it will not be, Roberto, what do I do for Vectis? It will be, Roberto, do you think this is a good idea for Vectis? So yeah, this is the point where serious, you need to be doing your own research at this point. I've given the basis, I've given my base knowledge, I've answered what I can. Again, if you've got any just normal questions about the class, like, feel free to come and ask me. But like, in terms of actually going into the raid and doing the healing, go sit down and look at some Warcraft logs, go sit down and look at guides, go sit down and like actually do the raid and like bug, or you know, watch my stream, because I'm going to be streaming the raid tomorrow. You know, sit back and watch the VOD and see what I do. Get an idea, have a basis. Again, that's the reason for the stream. I'm giving you a basis to go and learn more from. So what I will, few different places you want to be going. So I'm going to link for this, and I want you all to bookmark that. I want you to also go and join their Discord. Nub's gone for a Pokemon Go raid, so he's going to stream when he's back, because I'm pretty much done now. So, but yeah, if you're going to be learning Disc, go on that website, look through that website, use the Discord, look through all that sort of stuff. He said he was going to start at 2, so you got like 15 minutes. I'll be joining you as well though. So. Yeah, so basically look through that. I would recommend 2 people. Let me find them. One of them, as you know, is Josh Priest. He doesn't have any YouTube stuff, so look for his stream, go in, ask him questions, watch him. He is potentially one of the smarter players in terms of like just theory. So yeah, 100% check him out, ask him questions. The other person, someone I have recently started watching. So his thing says Danzy, but that's not his thing. His name is Automatic Jack. So he's someone I'm going to be looking through his stuff. He's got some nice bits on Discipline Priest. He is a Discipline Priest main. He also has a website. I believe it's just called out Automatic Jack. But yeah, he also has a website. You want to be looking through some of his stuff as well. Those are the 3 kind of points of sources that I would say go and look through, obviously, other than looking at Warcraft logs for timings and such. And just learn. Take the time and look. Because if you're coming into a raid with any class, on any role, on any spec, and you haven't taken the time to learn it, there's a bench for that. You know? I'm not going to be having any healer coming in with an ult that they can't play and they're not willing to put the time in to learn. I'll happily sit there and talk to you about it. But like, you mean back at rank, sorry. There's a nicer name for it. What do you need to learn for discipline? You need to learn timings. That's why I put timings at the bottom of the healing path. Learn them, know them, become them. That's the reason why I put that there. So then look through the Warcraft logs as well. It's super easy to do. So yeah. This is now your point, guys. If you want to really learn discipline, I've given you a basis. You can sit back and watch this VOD at any point. I'll put it in the thingamajig. I am recording this as well, so if the VOD does disappear, I can maybe put it on YouTube or some shit. I don't know. But yeah, you're gonna want to be researching now. Watch the VOD, lift it. I explained that. You'll give Disc a try? Not a problem. Reb, come kill Rares with me. I'm gonna go to the bathroom, log into my alts, and get the neck item level, and then Nub will be back, and then I will eat food like a good boy, and do the questing with him and you. So sorry Doge, but no. Reason takes all this stuff, but yeah. So yeah, just watch the VOD now, lift it, or later on, or whenever you get time. The VOD will give you all those kind of answers. Only if you ask nicely, Doge. Only if you ask nicely. Right. Oh, I want to thank you all for popping by, and being nice boys. I hope that this 2.5-hour stream. Again, this is why I streamed it and didn't do a video. Basis more mana refund. Yeah. Basically. But if you want the full explanation, go watch the VOD. Full-time. I don't know anything about a full-time streamer. All that I know is like, I have the followers. I'm clearly getting the 3 average viewers. Like, fucking up. Thank you guys for showing up. I just need to hit. I already hit the 8 hours for sure. I've already hit the 8 hours. I just need to hit 7 days. I think this is like a. Oh, I get it. Stream tomorrow. Stream Sunday. And like Tuesday maybe or some shit. I don't know. Do you respect Kwaman? Kwaman. I respect Kwaman. Do not worry. I respect Kwaman. And I'm gonna go get coffee, right? So again, thank you for watching. Go watch the fucking VOD if you didn't miss anything. Thank you for everyone dropping by, coming in slow, asking questions, joining the stream, and memeing away in chat. Thank you to Owie for sitting in front of me this nearly this entire fucking thing and sowing crap. Thank you to Frank for following, and Owie for the $5. So, hearts and chat, guys. I'm gonna put. Where's? There we go. The 5 bones. There we go. There's my Logos loves in chat. Yeah, I'm gonna go get more coffee, go bathroom, sort out my ults, and then be ready for Nub's stream. So. GB. Okay. So that's Nub. When he is back from his Pokemon Go raid, he's going to be streaming his experience of 8.1, coming into it for the first time today. He's going to be going through the quest line, most likely with, I believe, me and you. I think Doge maybe is going to be joining as well. Obviously, anyone else join, we'll do the quest line. What are you guys going to do on the stream? Yeah, it's just like the 8.1, the Tyrande storyline. I'm going to be doing that. If I can relinquish all control. If I can actually do it. Thank you very much, Krokop, for the follow also. So yeah, just go like sit in that channel. He'll be like ready in like 20 minutes or some shit. Maybe an hour. We know what it's like. Alright. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you later. Production value. PogChamp.